Chris.
Heath.
It is that time of the year again.
I feel like we've started multiple episodes off with that exact same phrase.
No. I wanted to make it special because that was how we started the first one.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm great.
We made it.
Wow. So we're recording episode 28 of Mobius Tubes on November 19th, 2019.
And it's a special episode.
It is. This is going to be kind of our 1 year anniversary episode, isn't it?
Effectively, yeah. Does it feel like it? Are we seasoned veterans at this point, or you gotta have to hit like 1,000 episodes like Joe Rogan?
Yeah, my podcasting proficiency has gone through the roof over the past year. I have no problem saying that. What I will say is I checked the record books, Heath, and our very first episode went live on November 30th of last year.
Oh, well, it went live, but like, didn't we record it?
A week or so in advance.
Right. So that's how I attribute our Mobius Tubes history.
This episode is going live around the same time anyway.
Yeah.
Usually we are the least timely news podcast.
Right.
So we have a very exciting episode for you listeners. We've got very hype games we've been playing. We are going to do a deep dive on the Game Award nominees and predicting the winners, which were just announced today. Hosted by Jeff Keighley, of course.
Jeff Keighley, everyone's favorite NPC.
Who hosted last year?
Yeah.
Jeff Keighley.
Yay.
Let's get this show on the right track here, Heath. Can you tell me what you have been playing?
Okay. I played a little bit of Fez, and then I played a lot of bit of Disco Elysium, and then I've been watching a television show.
Quite the eclectic mix there.
Yeah.
What order are you going to tackle those in? Just the order you just stated?
I could crush Fez really quick. You've played Fez, right?
I'm in the same boat as you. I dabbled with Fez.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Isn't the formula pretty appealing? You know, there's these cubes in the world that you got to collect, and if you get enough of them, you basically get to open a certain door. It's very Mario 64 or like Pac-Man. I've never played either of those, but what's this game's hallmark is its third dimension where you can rotate, and basically it's a platformer with 4 sides, and that is easy to learn, difficult to master. It's a good teaching tool for people who might be new to platforming and really don't care for the linearity that is Mario. It's also a good teaching tool for funneling. You know what funneling is?
Like, are we talking about binge drinking?
No. I mean, in regards to games, if there's like a fork in the road and you go down the right path and then there's another fork in the road, there's decisions that you need to make in order to maintain the continuity of the decisions if you ever wanted to backtrack. So in Fez, there will be levels where you will open a door and you'll be sent to like an island in the far horizon and find like door after door and not know where the heck you are. And did you open up like the map menu of Fez?
The map is unique, I'll put it that way.
Oh, it's abysmal. It's an art piece. There's no functional utility to be gained. It's clearly just like a wow, look at how perspective, like how much we dial into the motif. If you didn't leave any breadcrumbs, you're doomed.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I ultimately kind of got turned off by the game, constantly losing track of where I was in this larger world. However, I think it has a lot of cool merits to it.
Oh yeah, I really appreciate is if you die, you are almost back in the game instantly. You'll miss a jump, fall to your death, and then just be blooped right back. There's no lives you gotta worry about. All you have to do is make use of the tools you have available, albeit like bombs or literally just turning. I've never quite mastered it to do like mid-air jumps and stuff. There was one puzzle where you have to like blow up a section of a tower and you have to keep turning to keep the chain reaction going. That was sick.
Cool. Yeah, it's got a great puzzle-solving gimmick to it, playing with perspective in a really interesting way. Just to try to give our listeners a visual, picture like a level in Fez is more or less a Jenga tower, but you're only looking at it from one static angle, so it looks like a rectangle. And then you can rotate it 90 degrees left or right, and it changes the level drastically as you rotate the thing around. Very cool. It's got a great art style to it. Do you know why it's called Fez, Heath?
Because of the hat.
Yeah, the little red hat your character is wearing is called a fez. And yeah, there's some really deep esoteric stuff in Fez that, like, I'm talking like QR codes you need to scan. And is it called an AR game if it's like a real
Or no,
world?
you're thinking of an ARG.
ARG, yeah. I think there's an ARG embedded in Fez somewhere that may or may not have been solved.
Alternate reality game, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the correction there.
So if there are, to some extent, there's no chance that I'm going to dive that deep into Fez unless it came to my Switch and I didn't have any other games to play. But I do have other games to play because I freaking got Disco Elysium.
Before you dive in, Heath, I have to preface this saying Disco Elysium, probably one of the games I am most hyped to play, right up there with Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't think I've ever been more excited to hear your impressions about a game. So with that out of the way, please indulge me. Let me hear your thoughts.
Yeah. It's take note because it's a Game Award nominee.
Yeah, how appropriate.
Yes. So, Disco Elysium is a very introspective game. It starts with the origin of consciousness. You literally having a conversation with your ancient reptilian brain. So it doesn't hold back. It'll literally just spell out ancient reptilian brain. And then because I chose intelligent, there's 3 different play styles. There's intelligent, psychological, or muscles. Because I chose intelligent, I passed the very first skill check, which identified the make and model of a passing vehicle from just its sound. I wake up on the floor, I walk over to the mirror, and a basic description says it appears someone has ripped off the faucet of the vanity. To which my conceptualization kicks in and says, looks like the kind of ferociousness that founds empires and lays waste to cities. To which my logic replies, no, it doesn't. So immediately, my personality feels like an aggregate of all of the most active parts of my brain. I suddenly feel like I'm managing a party. You said that you took your time with 3 houses at an almost epic pace. I probably spent 15 minutes just standing in my bathroom reading. And then I turned around and I knew an epic journey awaited me when I was faced with my tie hanging from a revolving ceiling fan. It took me 20 minutes to meet another character, but I already felt like I had 5 because of the quips from encyclopedia, logic, drama, conceptualization, visual calculus, and even the mirror got a couple of jabs in. I was making a weird expression, and it asked me to stop, which is ironic because I was having conversations with inanimate objects in everything, only this time they have personality.
Can you explain what a skill check is exactly?
It's just straight up Dungeons and Dragons. Explicitly, it'll say, do you have enough savoir-faire, enough like agility to snatch your tie from the spinning ceiling fan? And you need to roll, like on a pair of dice, you need to roll like an 8, depending on how skilled you are. Obviously, if you have like the athletic build, you only need to roll like a 3. And a maximum roll is 12. So it is so bare bones role-playing game, which this is my first in-depth look at a game like that. I never spent hours on a tabletop campaign, even though our board game experience is limitless. But failing to pass a skill check is not the end of the world. It's just what your character how they would perform given their aptitude and their lack of experience. Hours into the game, I was engaged in a conversation with this lady on a boat, and she was a professional negotiator. So I shouldn't have went for it, but I was accusing her of negligent spending on account of how expensive her boat was. She replies, and then there's this option to say something really clever, but it's dependent on my reaction speed. And my character has a base of 4, so I need to roll a 7 to pass the skill check. I roll a 6, so all my character can say is and other dialogue options that play into the fact that nothing is coming to mind. Now, later in the conversation, there's another skill check that I was awarded a +1 to my persuasion because the lady I was talking to pitied my boat fail from earlier when I couldn't come up with something clever, which is outstanding from your choices matter, a story driving mechanic.
Yeah, it sounds like compared to most games, the level of mechanics going on behind the scenes of any given conversation just blows most games out of the water.
Yeah. That being said, I can only recommend this to people who like reading and like those complex mechanics and can make their own fun with choosing dialogue choices. The character sheet is wonderfully intimidating. It reminds me of the medieval Total War 2 character stats. Remember, single-digit episodes? I was begging someone to put in the grunt work to come up with all the descriptions for your kings, spies, merchants, because if you mouse over their proficiency, it'll give like a little blurb that says like, oh, this merchant could sell glasses to a blind man. You know, like fun things like that. And I wish I knew all of them. Same thing with this game. I very much appreciate how much it compartmentalizes your psychology into empathy, like you would expect, and then like volition, authority, esprit de corps, which is your knowledge of cop culture, because you play a cop, by the way. Did I mention that?
No, we just kind of dove right in.
This game is marketed as like a detective RPG, which is, it's all right. And then the art style is reminiscent of Supergiant games.
Okay. I hear it's very painterly.
Yes, it's very saturated oils, I would say. And still very like Estonian grunge.
You have some great descriptors there. Wow.
Well, wait, isn't this game made from a Baltic nation like Estonia?
Oh man, I don't know. I should know. I reached out to their PR department.
Oh my God, really? Wow. What a good host you are. In a word, this game is neat. Cut to 20 hours in. I hit a tremendous wall in which I could not pass any of the psychological skill checks because all of my skill points went into this thought cabinet. So so you can either make yourself better at logic or better at like endurance, or you can put your level ups into these thoughts, which internalize, meaning you queue them up, and it can take a few hours to even reap the benefits of a thought. So basically, you'll be talking to oh my gosh, you'll be talking to this racist guy, and he's like, you no, okay, that's a bad example. The themes of this game are very dark as well. You'll be talking to this fascist, and he'd be saying stuff about how
much better than the racist.
Right, way better. So you're just palling around with these fascists, and if you choose dialogue options that would reflect his ideology, the thought, in quotes, becomes available to you, and then you can research it, and then after like 5 hours, you'll have like +1 authority or +1 suggestion. It'll add to your aggregate skill rolls.
You can grow your fascism proficiency?
Well, yeah. You can research this thought, and then certain dialogue options will become available to you. there's like a clear path of capitalist, socialist, fascist, anarchist, whether or not you side with the cops or the working man.
I have a couple questions.
Well, hold on. Okay, so
Okay,
the reason
yeah,
I hit
go
a
ahead.
wall is because I kept investing in these thoughts, and you don't know what they're gonna be until you finish researching them. So I will have spent my level up points only to get like a nerf hours later. So I hit this wall where I couldn't persuade anyone because my psychology was so low. So all I could do was scavenge the environment for enough XP among dialogue choices I neglected and wait for my character to be proficient enough to get through these obstacles. At its worst, it can feel like XCOM. You know what I'm saying? Where you'll have like a 90% chance to hit the alien and it'll give you a bad roll and just ruin your game. This game would have so benefited from the kind of budget that Death Stranding got. Death Stranding, I've been told, is the highest budget AAA indie game ever made.
Okay, so by indie game, you don't mean it's not separated from a publisher. You mean like the avant-gardeness of its concept?
Yeah, it's totally wacky. You're like delivering packages.
Yeah. That is the primary gameplay mechanic, like making sure your center of gravity stays in check.
And it's, oh, dude, I'm watching it and it looks like so much fun. Because this game is exclusively dialogue, there's quite a bit of voice acting, but it's not entirely voice acted, which is why you're not seeing a lot of live streamers do it, because they don't want to have to read everything on screen for like 30, 40 hours. This is a long game. I beat it, by the way.
Oh, that's good to know. What was your final playtime?
42 hours.
Oof, yeah, that is long.
Yeah. Exhaustive. So, if it had money, you could hear the great voice acting from all the characters. And then the objectives list and world map wouldn't be really difficult to track down late game characters. And then there would be more songs because you notice the limited number. The ending was very tense. It was a good mystery, though it was a marathon in pace. This is some people's game of the year. That's crazy. It's not a game of the year, but it is a commendable execution on what we were talking about last episode of how could you design a non-combat game that is still as tense as pulling a trigger or swinging a sword. And that's Disco Elysium.
Awesome. All right, I have 3 questions for you.
Sure.
Starting it off, right at the very beginning, when you're like picking some of your character's stats, how nitty gritty can you get? And also, like, how flexible is your character going forward? Can you deviate much from your initial build, or are you kind of locked in from the start, old school style?
Oh, you can deviate for sure. If you put on the right jacket, you suddenly have like +2 to your physical instrument. So you could totally pry open that door with your bare hands if you spend like a couple of your level ups in the red column, red meaning like strength. In the beginning, you have 4 things to spec into. It's just your intelligence, your physique, psychology, and your motorics, your like agility, how well you move in the environment. And then throughout the game, you can choose, because I was always solid on conceptualization. So I was putting more of it into reaction speed, like I was talking about. I never quite put it into physique because I could always work around it with my brain.
Okay. So, fair to say at no point did you feel punished for some initial decisions you made that you weren't fully aware of their implications?
The only thing that punished me was that thought section.
Okay.
I literally just looked up a table of what they were toward the end of the game, and I was like, oh, well, that one's good. That one's coming later. I know I can get that researched. If they could better integrate that, I feel like it would be a properly balanced progression system.
Gotcha. Question number 2. This kind of gets into how you yourself play these kind of games. I was just wondering, since this game has its roots in tabletop role-playing games like D&D, as you mentioned, were you choosing dialogue choices mainly as, I predict this choice will produce the best outcome in a game sense? Or did you ever feel the need to like role play your character? This is what my guy would do.
I think it's both. I naturally choosing dialogue options that I feel would come up with the best outcome. And I think by default, that is how the character would go about. I hear the discrepancy in my statement. The opposite is true in this game. You can be a wacky cop that basically just runs around and says, I am the law, and do what would clearly get you suspended from the force. And it doesn't have severe consequences, or if it does have consequences, those will benefit you in a circular way. I tended to not be overzealous, which is really like, they really want you to pick a path. I wanted to build the camaraderie with your partner, Kitsuragi, and serve as like a mediator between the labor union and the corporations. And at no point was I like, this isn't how my character would act. I should mention, though, during the titular quest, because there is a Disco Elysium quest. Yeah. I cut loose to a certain extent. I'll say that. But aside from that, I was level-headed and investigative. And that felt like an appropriate play style. There were a few choices that I got burned on because I was playing so centrist, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't want to commit to a side.
No, I didn't. I didn't go full fascist or anything like that, or lead the Marxists. But your first question about what was the first question?
Oh, just that, did your initial character build choices ever come back to bite you because you didn't really know what you were doing?
No, I knew what I was doing because the union leader of the Débardeur.
I love these names. They're so exotic.
Well, the world you're living in is Revachol. So the dock workers union leader will straight up try to give you a bribe. And I was able to catch that. And granted, if I took it, there would have been story consequences. I feel that among this game's faults, its writing is not one of them. So you can pretty much pick any path and it'll play out fortuitously the more consistent you are.
Okay. Last but not least, if I get around to playing this game, which I really think I'm going to make time for because I want to.
Okay.
How excited would you be to do a spoiler section on this game? Does the narrative stand up to merit that kind of attention?
A spoiler section would be not even a spoiler section. It would be, let's reminisce about the fun situations along the way.
Okay.
If we were to do a spoiler thing, I can tell you we wouldn't mention the ending one bit. We would mention the third act, but as far as like what happens before the credits, it wouldn't come into play because the journey is more important than the destination in this game.
It sounds like you have tepid praise for it.
Yes, it is praise, albeit maybe if it had more money, it would have had enough polish to not as worn on me as quickly as it did. That being said, I played through 42 hours in like 3 days.
Whoa.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, what's 42 divided by 3? Like 13 to 14?
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah. I don't think I've ever done that.
Oh yeah, I binged this game.
Excuse me, World Health Organization. I've got to call the place. All right, and you also watched a TV show, is that correct?
Oh yeah, okay, okay. So are you familiar with Fleabag?
Not even slightly.
It is a British comedy series I'm watching on Amazon's subscription. And its second season swept the Emmys recently on account of its like performances and writing. It is the funniest show, but not ha-ha funny. Funny like, oh, cringe. I can't believe someone could be that socially inept. Its conceit is feminist House of Cards. So you know House of Cards, right?
Oh yeah, big fan.
Yeah. So this woman will talk to the camera, talk to you amidst her misadventures. And boy, all these characters have realistic but pointed character flaws. I would recommend it. It's not gonna, if you like The Office, if you ask people what's like your favorite comedy show, 90% of them are gonna say The Office. But if you like, there's one bit where the main character has to attend her mother's funeral, and her and her friends are trying to make her look worse because she wakes up that day with a great face, great hair, and she just can't help but looking really attractive, which is a bad thing at your mother's funeral because everyone's going to think that like you're trying to be an attention hog. And,
Right.
So the grievers are coming up to her and her sister looks dreadful. So it's totally applicable in this context. And one griever will be like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. And then turn to the main character and be like, oh, you look well. It's kind of like, just sink into this acid bath of social awkwardness.
Faux pas.
Yeah. And boy, is it pretty fun.
So you recommend it?
Oh, Fleabag? Totally.
You said it's on Netflix, right?
No, it's on Amazon's thing.
All right. I take back what I was going to say.
We should mention all of the subscription services started between this episode and last. Cable TV died.
And Disney Plus arrived.
Yeah.
Well, amazingly, I currently have no streaming services that I'm subscribed to. But that's going to change next month when The Witcher arrives on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to watch that and report back.
Okay, good.
So, we had a bit of a longer gap than usual in between recording episode 27 and 28, kind of like a 3-week span there. And in that time, I was able to finish 2 games to talk about. First game, The Banner Saga 3. I finished it up. The trilogy is over.
Did everybody live?
My Viking saga has come to an end. Death toll, pretty high.
Oof.
Not gonna lie. Here's what I'm going to say. As I was playing through The Banner Saga 3, for a majority of the time I spent playing it, I would have told you that, yeah, it's pretty good. Not my favorite in the trilogy. However, much like you were saying in Disco Elysium, that third act, the final chapter of The Banner Saga 3, blew me away. It's 10 out of 10. Good. I'm not explicitly talking about the final scene and the end of the game, but the whole arc leading up to the end is incredible.
Right.
I said earlier, a couple episodes back, that the ending of Prey, the word that came to mind was consequences. Consequences applies even more so at the end of Banner Saga 3.
Okay.
The last trilogy of games I can recall that touted itself as being this persistent story where you import your save, My mind immediately goes back to Mass Effect and how your Commander Shepard's story is this continuation across 3 games, and how earlier decisions are going to have this big impact at the end, and how famously BioWare kind of dropped the ball at the very end. The ending to Mass Effect 3 is ridiculed beyond belief. The ending arc of the Banner Saga 3, this very small indie team that needed Kickstarter to fund this game series, they pulled off what BioWare failed to do. It so comprehensively, obviously I'm not going to get into story spoilers, but they come up with this fantastic mechanic not seen in any other part of the game that occurs in that final chapter, that in a very elegant system and a very fair feeling system, even if you're like getting the short end of the stick, cumulatively summarizes how well you've performed on this journey and then rewards you or punishes you accordingly. So, yeah, final act, excellent. Problems with the Banner Saga 3? I do kind of regret the fact that for the first 2 parts to this game trilogy, resource management was very important. All of that takes a way back seat in the final game. This is basically just an emphasis on combat. And as I was saying last time, I was playing the 3rd game on hard. It gets really hard at the end. Like,
who would have thought?
I was failing some of these final climactic battles, and my conventional strategies were not working. Much like how you had to look up some thought info on Disco Elysium, I had to look up some cheesy strategies to get through this by the skin of my teeth. And there are some cheesy strategies in there. I was like doing some turtling, just hanging back, and having some of my like mage-ish units who I didn't typically use. He's this cool stone singer guy. It takes a whole like round to pull it off, but he can do this like your whole team gets buffed, boosting up your strength at the cost of some armor. You pull that off a couple times over the course of a battle, and suddenly you have...
Is it like a snowball effect? You're suddenly like super strong?
Yeah, your tanks are going to just mow. You're going to have one-man armies, and I fully made use of that. However, I don't want to say it completely trivialized combat, because what is true of the 3rd game and not the others is the designers put some time pressure on you. At the bottom of the screen, as you see your character turn order screen, you also see this timer ticking down, and that's the number of turns you have remaining before enemy reinforcements arrive. And when I say reinforcements, I'm not talking about 2 or 3 extra guys. Like the enemy team will double in size if you don't complete it in a certain allotted amount of time. At some points, I was able to beat the reinforcements. At some points, that's when I hit exit to desktop. But like I said earlier, Banner Saga 3, very dire situations you're put in, and the combat reflects that marvelously. So well, in fact, that while I was playing this game, I'd walk by my PC, see the Banner Saga 3 Steam page up on where I left it on my desktop, and I would kind of shirk away, not wanting to hit play. I was reluctant to dive back in.
Oh my gosh.
There was kind of a mental hurdle I would have to clear every time I hit play, because I knew what I was getting myself into, and it was going to be a rough time. That said, as soon as I was playing, I was very engaged the whole time. It definitely, it'll hold your attention. You just have to muster the courage to dive in.
So because it's a trilogy, I have to start with 1, right?
Absolutely. If you dove into more so than most games, like if you dove into Assassin's Creed 3, those things are self-contained. Do not start with 2 or 3 in Banner Saga.
Okay.
It sounds like I might have problems with this series. I like it a lot. I do recommend it to people, especially because it's a series that kind of flew under the radar. And here's something else I'll say, Heath. I didn't realize how much I cared about the narrative until I started making some really bad decisions. The game really does not hold back. There are some gut punches in here.
What?
And
wait, okay, hold on. You got to pause for a second. Isn't this like a graphic novel? Illustrations, you're looking at these just 2D flat images for characters, but that you're saying that that's sufficient to drive sensitivity toward their decisions?
Right, so the budget of this game, fairly small, fairly modest. Most of the dialogue is told through static character screens and point-and-click dialogue choices. However, like the big impactful moments of the story, they actually have fully animated, gorgeous cutscenes that fully capitalize on the game's very distinct art style. It's kind of got this grimy, dirty, realistic look to the fantasy, but still kind of looking like a fantasy picture book. So as I was saying, the narrative in the end did it for me. I actually got choked up at a couple points when I made some bad decision. Yeah, I would never have, if you had asked me on the street, like, how much do I care about the characters in Banner Saga? I don't think I would have been that impressed, but after seeing what they go through in 3, yeah, it did get to me emotionally.
High praise.
Yeah, very high praise.
Who makes this game?
I think they're called Stoic. Let's do a quick fact check. The developer is Stoic Studio, yeah. I don't think they've done anything else. Let's do a quick look. Yeah, just the Banner Saga.
All right.
I wonder what they're going to do next. Yeah, that's about all I had to say on the Banner Saga. You may see it appear in my top 10 games of the year coming in a couple episodes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that brings me to the other game I finished.
What other game?
I was really heartened to see that after our long, lengthy, I thought pretty productive conversation on the prevalence of combat in video games, you were inspired to give Disco Elysium a try, even if it's not necessarily the type of game you normally gravitate towards.
You could say that.
Yeah, I was also motivated to dive into the most hyper-focused, violent combat game I could find.
Super hot?
I played and beat Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Partially in preparation for my anticipation of it being nominated for several of the Game Award nominees.
Best action game.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, character action games are not exactly my specialty. My only kind of point of reference for the genre
Bayonetta
is Bayonetta. Yeah, I'll start off with the high-level comparison here between Devil May Cry 5 and Bayonetta 2. I think they're two excellent games. You really can't go wrong with either one. Just to help you narrow down which one might be more your cup of tea, let's talk about, first of all...
Well, I love Bayonetta's music.
Yeah, music. Devil May Cry 5 has some bangers in it. Devil Trigger, Nero's combat theme is phenomenal.
All these
it's
voices
so good.
Inside my head.
Yeah. That said, Bayonetta 2 overall, I think, does have the better soundtrack. It's when you want to feel empowered, a good soundtrack is kind of instrumental. Get it?
Oh, that's good.
And providing that feeling, and both of these series pull it off in spades. They're amazing. So music is one component. Visuals, though, Devil May Cry 5 looks so good. It runs in Capcom's proprietary RE engine, which the latest Resident Evil games also run in.
Oh, well, Resident Evil 2 looked amazing.
Yeah, running on the same tech. A character action game has no need for the character faces to look this good. I can see all the pores on Dante's face, every little individual hair of his stubble. It's totally unnecessary. It just feels like Capcom flexing on everyone. Like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order? Sorry. Outer Worlds? Sorry. Our faces blow yours out of the water.
Oh, Outer Worlds looked pretty good, right?
They're not Devil May Cry 5 level faces, let me tell you that.
Okay.
They're on the same level as Detroit Become Human, which, you know, Detroit totally makes sense why you need these great looking faces. For parts of the game, you're this cop conducting interviews. You maybe need to pick up on subterfuge or nonverbal cues that are only present in the emotions of someone's face.
Yeah.
You don't need any of that in a Devil May Cry game.
No.
Which, it's worth mentioning, this is my introduction to the Devil May Cry franchise. I've never played any.
They recommended that to newcomers.
Yes, this seems to be the new gold standard of Devil May Cry games.
Wait, you beat it?
Devil May Cry 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all done. I hit the credits.
Did you do Bloody Palace?
I have not dove into the Bloody Palace.
Okay, I heard it's crazy.
I intend to, though. So yeah, this game was short. It's like a cool, easy, smooth 12 hours to beat. I was playing on the human difficulty setting, which is like the equivalent of easy.
Are you S-ranking these?
I was hitting S rank. I was not hitting triple S rank, though. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But I was consistently hitting S, a couple A's in there. Never a double S, never a triple S for a whole level. Gameplay comparisons, dodging in Bayonetta feels a lot better. The witch time is just such a satisfying mechanic. That said, the variety of Devil May Cry 5, since it has 3 different protagonists, all with crazy different playstyles.
You have Virgil, Nero, Dante, and then the girls?
You have, Nero, Dante, and V.
I heard Nero is the best.
Nero is my personal favorite, but I'm kind of surprised to hear that. I thought Dante would have been the fan favorite.
Yeah, well, he's the fan favorite, but Nero has like the best gameplay versatility.
I disagree with versatility.
What? Because you could switch his hands or something. I have very cursory knowledge of Devil May Cry.
That is true. I'll circle back to that in a second, though. So yeah, great games. I didn't realize I had heard Bayonetta is a spiritual successor to the Devil May Cry series. I didn't realize how on the nose it is. Like, exactly. Like,
What, down to its sense of humor?
Sense of humor, how crazy it is. When you enter a new combat zone, the gate seals in exactly the same way in both games and then shatters at the end in exactly the same way. The cutscenes are of a similar tone. Yeah, they're extremely similar in just about every sense of the word.
They're not made by the same team, right? Because Bayonetta's Atlas.
Bayonetta is Platinum, published by
Man.
Saga. And I think early on, the DMC director left at some point and started Bayonetta.
Oh, okay. That explains
I think they share some development team DNA like that. Brief summary of what it's like playing DMC. No, that's a different game. Devil May Cry 5. It's just a pure combat game. There's a whole laundry list of combos for you to learn and memorize. I really, as kind of a noob in this genre, I like that they do a good job explicitly telling you when you want to use certain combos. They all have their own explicit function to them. So with Nero, I've got this wide sweeping combo I can do, which is great for crowd control when I'm surrounded.
Yeah.
But I also have one that just kind of pile drives in this one very explicit point. So you want to do that on a single enemy you want to do a lot of damage to. And similarly, there are combos that exist like that between all 3 of the characters. Nero, he's great. He's got a robotic arm, which you can switch out with I think around 9 different configurations. They call it your devil breakers because this robotic arm of yours is fragile. It's powerful, but fragile, like a glass cannon. Each one has a unique ability to it. Everything from one called ragtime, which you can use to slow down time, to one that is a rocket that you can shoot and engage enemies at long range, or you can just surf around on it. They've got a lot of variety to them, but fragile, like I said earlier, if you're using one and you get hit at the same time, your Devil Breaker arm will shatter, actually. You'll lose it. You've got an inventory of them you need to manage.
Oh.
And you can run out, which will put you at a disadvantage. And Nero, he's also got the Blue Rose, which is this very powerful hand cannon of his. So satisfying to shoot. You can charge it up in preparation for a battle, load it up with multiple bullets. It's a handgun. It practically sounds like a cannon when you shoot it and it's charged up.
Uh-huh.
Nero also has a wire snatch, which is like a grappling hook. So he can suck enemies right next to him, or if you're fighting a large adversary, he actually gets pulled over to that. So he's got an interesting tool in his tool set for continuing your combos. You don't need to worry about being close to an enemy per se, because you can just grab them immediately. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. Probably my favorite. His sword has like an engine on it that you can rev up for extra damage. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider with him. But there's a lot of things to consider with all the characters. Like V, he's very strange. He's this kind of goth poet guy who you have the right bumper on your controller is a dedicated button for reciting poetry.
Is it like a taunt mechanic?
It's not a taunt. It'll actually help refill your spirit energy
Cooldowns
faster
and stuff, yeah.
But it puts you in a completely vulnerable state and you can only like walk around very slowly.
This game is so stylish.
Exactly. It is oozing style. Persona 5 levels of style on display in DMC5. V, he's very fragile himself, not much of a combatant, but he summons this shadow raven called Griffin and this shadow tiger called Shadow, and you control them from a distance. He's like the manipulator. Your raven is a ranged guy, and your tiger gets up close and personal. And you might ask me, why do you not just like hide in a corner and do all the fighting from a far distance?
Because you want to get that S rank.
That's true. Also, more explicitly, your familiars, they deal out all the damage. But to actually kill an enemy, V has to go over there and like hit him with his cane, which will instantly finish them off, but they have to be beaten up first. They have to be like worn down as if you're about to capture a Pokemon or something.
Oh.
So he actually has to put himself in danger once in a while to actually get the killing blow. Very different from the other two. And that brings us to Dante at last. Dante, who is, as I understand it, the primary protagonist.
Oh yeah, he's like the main series face.
Yes. He's the poster child. I had never played a Devil May Cry game. I had always assumed Dante was this edgy, kind of cringy person.
No, doesn't he dance around and like pizza?
Yeah, he's a goofball, but a super endearing and charming one. Yeah, he's a joker. He's not at all edgy. It is impossible to dislike Dante. I understand why he is the fan favorite. They definitely like...
And he's old in this one.
Yeah, he's pretty old. But he is the most versatile because he's got like 4 different melee weapons to choose from, 4 different ranged weapons to choose from. You can mix and match them to your heart's degree. And he has 4 different stances you can switch from at the drop of a hat. What do I mean by stances? This is controlled by your D-pad, like the 4 directions on that. You've got your Sword Master stance. So in that, obviously, you get extra moves you can do while wielding your melee weapons. You've got Gunslinger, where suddenly you've got all these new, like, more high-powered options when you're shooting. You've got the Trickster stance, which is all about mobility, and you have an increased ability to dodge attacks and things like that. And you also have the Royal Guard stance, which is all about blocking and absorbing damage. And you don't have to like equip a new loadout or anything. These are all a single button press away from switching on the fly. So you can jump between these different fighting styles at a moment's notice. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I didn't even touch Royal Guard. I had too much to contend with already. Not to mention, all of the weapons you're using are very different. At first, Dante was my least favorite character because I had to experiment with a whole bunch of different options to find a play style I like.
I mean, you start with Nero, right?
Yeah, it goes Nero, then V, then Dante. And to the game's credit, it does, despite having these 3 very different protagonists, it does a great job balancing them. As soon as I was even slightly tired as playing as one of them, you get to switch to another one. And even at some levels, it gives you the choice of who you want to play as. So you can potentially go through old levels again as a different character. But when Dante really clicked for me is when I unlocked the melee weapon called the Cavalier, which is a motorcycle he splits in half.
Yeah.
And then dual wields. Obviously, that sounds ridiculous, but it is a super slow, high damage weapon where every swing of your motorcycle, you have the opportunity to like rev the wheel so it skids on the enemy for like up to a couple seconds. So each stroke is like this big affair, but it dishes out damage at an incredible rate. It's amazing. So much fun. Do you have any... Yeah, what are you going to say?
It seems like this is the quintessential character action game. And although there have been beloved entries in the past, I'm talking Metal Gear Revengeance and the Bayonettas, it seems like if you're interested at all in the genre, this is your first jumping in point. Would you say?
It is a very, very strong spot to jump into, yeah. Maybe too strong, because I don't know if other games can like hold up to it.
That being said, it's a pretty fun juxtaposition of me playing the least combat game and you playing one of the most. I still think I would prefer Disco Elysium to Devil May Cry, just because the mastery of combos doesn't really appeal to me. And I don't know if you could sell that for me real quick.
Sure, yeah. The combos unlock at a very gradual rate. You have to spend currency on them, which you earn in-game at a very generous clip, too. And the replayability is through the roof. Like, I think I'm going to go back and play the game again. A, to try a higher difficulty setting, but B, there is too much to play around with in a single playthrough. You are unlocking, like, completely new, crazy abilities right up into the final chapter of the game. So you clearly don't have time to like master them or even engage with them. Dante gets a rocket launcher right at the end, and that has like a whole moveset I haven't even touched. The memorization of the combos. This is not on the level of like a Street Fighter where I struggle to even throw a Hadouken. These are a lot easier to pull off. I like that they have a pretty clear function to them. I know when I want to be doing a certain combo and not another one based on the enemy combatants I'm facing and my positioning. Despite this sounding like this hyper violent action game, that adds a level of tactics to it where I'm actually considering what kind of move I want to throw next. The button presses required to pull off even the most difficult combos are not out of reach for me. I think just about anyone could beat this on the easiest difficulty. It was a kind of a breeze.
They're not going to make Devil May Cry 6, are they?
I think they will, yeah.
Oh, but this feels like the perfect capstone. And then, well, I mean, the characters you said are so beloved. I guess how could they turn away?
Characters are beloved, yeah. Plot, it's there. Didn't really do anything for me. Yeah, it's hard to like be seriously invested in the ridiculousness that's going on. That said, there are some hilariously entertaining cutscenes in here. You mentioned Dante's dancing. Yeah, that's a memorable one.
And what food do they like? Do they have hamburgers or what?
You know, the food did not get featured in this game, but I think
what am I
Dante
thinking
does like. I think he does like pizza. I didn't see any pizza in the game though.
All right,
maybe that's DLC.
Maybe.
And the final, just the most throwaway little detail that endeared me to the game so much is when your companion drives up in her upgrade vehicle where you do all your upgrading in. And she like crashes through the wall and you go into this RV to go pick your new arm or whatever. The most soothing, chill music is playing from this RV and like just permeating the environment you're in as you walk up to approach it. I love the music in the RV. You need to look this stuff up, Heath.
No, I know about it. It's the one with the neon on the side.
Yeah, neon on the side that says Devil May Cry, because that's like your business. You're a guy for hire.
Oh, okay.
So that was my great time I had with Devil May Cry 5.
Pretty cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know that there are probably some fun clips I can send your way. But I don't think I mean, this is not, there's not even an analog I can draw to. I guess like the Batman combat is fun, but it's rudimentary compared to Devil May Cry.
Yes, the skill ceiling here I can't even see it. It's that high up. I'm in the basement right now.
Very cool. And let me know how Bloody Palace is, because I think it's worth talking about.
Sure. Yeah, this is a game I will revisit at some point, just because a combat system this good, 12 hours wasn't enough to do it justice. I need to play it some more.
Cool.
And when we come back from the break, we're going to go over some news stories with you. Stay tuned.
And we're back. All right, time for news and then Game Awards. We gotta rapid fire those Game Awards. There's so many to go to. Okay, the first news is the new Sonic looks great.
It is a marked improvement.
Have you looked at that freaking thing? They put gloves on him instead of the icky fur, and gosh, the side by side is astonishing. This is an audio format, but you gotta look at the new Sonic. It's still gonna be a trash fire of a film just because the performances are like so campy. But as far as like a visual standpoint, it's as good as, remember that movie Pixels? Oh, this is a great comparison. Pixels looked great. Remember Adam Sandler and like Josh Gad and Kevin James? They're all fighting like Donkey Kong in the streets. Look, this is your homework. Watch Pixels in preparation for Sonic, and you will totally understand my comparison. It is brilliant computer graphics and execution of the art style, minus any love for the IP.
Heath, can you think of any examples where fan backlash...
I just did Pixels. Oh, okay.
Fan backlash succeeds in changing to such a significant degree, like the actual artistic property, in this case, the movie.
Batman v Superman. They changed the cut of it, I think. And freaking, remember when Kevin Spacey got evaporated from that movie? It's like a phrase. It's like All the Money in the World, I think. And he got replaced because of the scandal that he had that year. And
I do recall that.
Yeah. Dude, we're moving and shaking. It's almost the 2020, the decade of it's almost the roaring 20s. We can do anything.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't think of any examples, except I did. The Yakuza spin-off game, Judgment. They edited out one of the antagonists because of the drug scandal.
Right. We talked about that. Yeah, he had cocaine, like a very small amount, but Japan's like, no cocaine here.
But this is kind of different, right? The Kevin Spacey and the Judgment, those were scandals that they edited someone out. There was no crime committed with the original Sonic design. It's just fans
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I was opening myself up to that one. It's just fans didn't like it. And for as much of an improvement as I think this new Sonic is, part of me is a little hesitant to think that's a good thing. Isn't this just like designed by committee? If the fans don't like something, this hasn't been the case for so long. The creators now feel pressured to like give in to the demands of the fans.
Right. This is, I won't go as far as to say unprecedented, but I hear your concern about how if there's a vocal enough majority, there could be some mob mentality changes to like the one artistic vision. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, like the author's intent doesn't mean a whole lot if he just asks people, hey, what do you want to see? I'll do that.
Well, here's probably where things are an analogous situation is with like the Star Wars movies. Remember how people were complaining after Episode 8, and then they had to do reshoots of the Solo movie, and that was sort of compromised both of those movies or other installments. They were going to do more Star Wars spin-offs until they started kowtowing to the fan base, and then even then it didn't perform well. I feel like that is indicative of this new interaction that the audience is having with the creators.
Gotcha.
That was purely anecdotal, but I feel like it's a good thing.
Yeah, I suppose it's a case-by-case basis. I'm not super concerned about the high art of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie being compromised, but...
I mean, I was back when the first one happened.
You were what?
I was sympathetic to the original Sonic brand when they botched it so aggressively.
I have no issue with this. It's just, it's not a precedent I'd want to see cropping up all the time. I feel like if Hideo Kojima surveyed the fans, we would have gotten a very different Death Stranding.
That's a perfect comparison, Chris. Exactly. The triumphs of the auteur far outweigh the pitfalls of ignoring the masses.
Potentially.
How is that? No, across the board, universally.
The earliest example I can think of this is going back to 2012. As we mentioned earlier, that ending to Mass Effect 3, people really didn't like it. So much so that BioWare did change the ending. Retroactively, though. Like, after the game was out, they patched it.
Oh, I may have known that, but since forgot it.
So I never experienced the original Mass Effect 3 ending. I have only played it post-patch.
Oh.
I don't know. I do not know how egregious it was originally.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, the Reapers... Okay, can we talk about this? Because I know very little.
We're spoiling the end of Mass Effect 3
no
right
one's
here?
going to play Mass Effect now that, like... you don't have to say anything, but...
Okay, all right. What do you want to know about the ending, Heath? It's full... It's basically...
Which shop ends up being Commander Shepard's favorite?
So all of the decisions you made across 3 30-plus hour RPGs basically amount to choose your favorite color at the end.
Oh, okay.
And there's also this like Deus Ex Machina character introduced in the final 15 minutes you've never seen before, ever.
Oh.
And yeah, it is a writing disaster.
Okay, that makes more sense. All right, so new Sonic looks great. Next news story, Pokemon looks fine.
We're talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Dude, there's a treasure trove on Twitter of all these Sword and Shield reactions. Did I ever share with you the opening to the original anime, but only with the Pokemon in Sword and Shield? So some visual effects person put the work in to erase all of the Pokemon that got cut from Sword and Shield just to show how much they've betrayed their roots. And it's pretty funny. I'll send it to you afterward. But let's get back to how people are not as critical as we would have thought, despite how Game Freak just straight, like, it's so obvious that they lied.
Oh, what did they lie about?
They're freaking like, we're gonna change the models. The reason it's taken so long, we gotta cut down the number of guys is because we gotta update the models. And then you can literally see from like the raw files in the game that they are identical to the ones from like Black and White.
Really? Because that's like a handheld game.
Yeah, freaking Bulbasaur is the exact same. The bunny one is the exact same. Down to the polygon count. It's astonishing. But people still like it. And I feel like I'm not going to get this game out of just having
solidarity.
Well, not solidarity, because I still would I do like me some Pokemans. And plus I feel like this one it's slower than the originals, which has always been my faux pas with these newer ones. But also a little bit of solidarity. I kind of feel like I want Game Freak to have their shareholders be like, what the heck? Why did you shortchange them? It's affecting our bottom line.
Yeah.
Even though how could it? Because Pokemon owns everything that Disney doesn't.
Right. Yeah, so obviously I don't have much of an attachment to the Pokemon games. If you had told me, however, that the first big mainline Pokemon home console release was going to have even a slightly negative reaction to it, I would have not believed you. And I've mostly heard in my own echo chamber, people are down on this game in a bad way. And it's a big surprise. I thought at worst it would be like an average Pokemon game, but no, people are not feeling it.
Well, no, you say that, but then Jason Schreier will be like, "Oh, it's still fun. It's still Pokemon. I'm and it's apparently challenging." But then, yeah, people are having the field day pointing out the inconsistencies and the lack of certain features.
I see. And those are things that probably only bother the most fervent of fans.
And me.
And you.
But that's just because I'm ready to join a caustic cause.
Gotcha.
All right, moving on. Death Stranding is the best thing ever.
At long last, it is out there in the wild.
I love what I've been seeing, Chris. I wish I had a PlayStation. Although, wait, it's coming to PC later, though. Oh, but I got to save money because I totaled my car. So, you watched SpongeBob as a kid, right?
Of course, yeah.
Do you remember the delivery episode where SpongeBob has to take the Krusty Krab pizza? The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza.
Yeah, and they ride the rock.
He drives a rock, and it's in great shape. So that is Death Stranding. Why didn't we mention this before?
Well, for a while there, we didn't really know what we were getting.
Right. We just thought it was like ladders and ghosts. But it's literally the SpongeBob delivery episode. Like, I shit you not. There is a mission in the game where you have to deliver a pizza. Norman Reedus is given a pizza, and you have to keep it parallel. If it tips over, if you fall off your bike, it ruins the pie. It's so Kojima. What a amazing game designer. And I was watching a live stream because I don't own the game. When the pizza was delivered, of course, the whole chat is like, "You forgot my drink. How am I supposed to eat this without my drink?"
The SpongeBob reference.
So yeah. It's great, and I could totally see how you're collecting resources and you're using those to literally build bridges, literally build roads. And it's just like it's the kind of engine building that appeals to my strategy game person. I don't want to play Civilization right now. I kind of want to play Death Stranding. And like the quirkiness of it that we were kind of fearful of is not... You can kind of avoid it.
Why would you avoid it? I would want to embrace it.
No. This game is up for Game of the Year, Chris. And
yes.
Wouldn't it be something if you could tell like mom and dad that the Game of the Year has you throwing piss, shit, and blood at ghosts, and you're carrying that stuff across the dystopia.
Because Norman Reedus's bodily fluids are like toxic to the ghosts?
Yeah, for those of you who've never seen a Metal Gear, this is what Kojima is kind of about. It's these quirky characters, like, and it has nothing to do with Dead Man or Die Hard Man. It's just Norman Reedus and his blood, because he suffers from dooms. So his blood does damage to the ghosts. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it is pretty wild. It is so convenient that Death Stranding released right after our big discussion on combat in games, because one of the takeaways from that conversation was I think game studios might want to differentiate themselves by building these big AAA games that don't really rely on combat. Now, Death Stranding is kind of like a half-measure approach to that, because the game does feature combat. You can shoot guys and beat them up. But that's not the primary mechanic here. The primary mechanic
is rebuilding America.
Is basically a cross-country traversal delivery game.
Yeah.
Where the biggest threat you're going to face
is that rock in the distance that you're going to trip over.
It's like a running body of water, or a hill you're descending too steeply and you start running too quickly and you can't control your center of gravity anymore and you fall down.
Uh-oh, do I have enough rope to scale down this cliff?
Couple that with the pretty innovative multiplayer features it has going on.
I'm amazed by it. Can I explain it? Okay, so you start in this empty world and you're collecting all of these resources like metal, wood, and ceramics. And if you reach a certain clearing or a river that you want to build a road or bridge on respectively, you need only contribute some of your resources. Now, these are pretty much monolithic tasks that if everyone online is contributing to, you can build an infrastructure that can last you long into your play session. You're not going to want to stop because you have just built this super highway that'll allow you to drive your truck full of goods across the United States. And it's so smart. He incorporates this meta commentary on how society is built on likes these days. You are literally giving your fellow porters likes when you use their bridge or commend them for a great generator placement. And I'm watching this live streamer, Angriest Pat. He is collecting an obscene number of likes, a narcissistic level of likes, because he built an amazing bridge, like a perfect positioned bridge. And he's contributed so much to the superhighway. He'll be playing, he'll just be like walking along the grassy landscape, going through his inventory, and he will just get like 3,400 likes. And it's affecting me in a sort of way I wasn't anticipating, in which I kind of want this recognition and affection from these nameless multiplayer people and I'm like, oh, I gotta get the game now, because in 2 years there's gonna be the number of likes is gonna pale in comparison to what it is now when it's hot and out.
Now seems like a good time to mention you should head over to iTunes and leave us a review, smash that bell icon, and subscribe, and tell your friends about Mobius Tubes.
Yeah, write us a review so we can help rebuild America.
But yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, Heath. This is a very art house concept for a game, given that AAA level of budget, unlike Disco Elysium, as you were saying earlier.
I'm so glad it did well.
Yeah, doing great. I think it's worth mentioning the critical response to Death Stranding has been divisive. It's pulling in a bunch of 9s and 10s, but also I see those 6s crop up, which I mean, like on Metacritic, it's settling in at around the 8 level because of those highs and lows. It has its fans. It also has its detractors.
Well, yeah, because it's the anti-Skyrim. It's the anti-Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead. It's the traversal is the big get. In other games, you would like fast travel through the bare open world so you can get to the gun mission, so you can fight Rhino. It's like the perfect foil, and it's breaking people's brains, and it's so interesting. In my opinion, Death Stranding deserves high 8s and 9s. I feel like I've yet to see the main character use a gun, and I feel like maybe if there were more traditional gameplay mechanics in Death Stranding, in addition to all this stuff that's blowing my mind, I feel it could be like the game of the year. I'm getting ahead of myself. I can empathize with those that are giving it middle scores, but I feel that is hypercritical of a game that is... It's like Inside. It's like Outer Wilds. It stands out apart from the rest. It's like an indie game in its level of craze and impact.
Right, and novelty. At the end of the day, I am super glad this game exists. I'm probably going to get to it one day. The only thing pushing me away is what I've heard about the game's length and how it takes dozens and dozens of hours.
Well, that's
I'm a little
good,
skeptical.
Though. I mean, like Outer Worlds is 24, and that seems light.
Outer Worlds, okay. I wonder how much depth is in this, or in these traversal mechanics, and how, since a lot of it is this kind of long, self-reflective walking, and how that's like a big part of the game, it can get boring, or that's what I've heard people say.
Chris, I can't, dude, aren't you eager to find out what happens to your baby when you reach maximum companionship? The reason this game is resistant to that is because it has that Kojima X factor. You don't know what's going to happen at hour 30 because he's at the wheel. Mads Mikkelsen is going to come out of nowhere and start a baby farm on the moon.
Okay. I
couldn't disagree more.
I feel like if this was a 20 or 25 hour game, it wouldn't really suffer for it.
It would. Oh, okay.
It seems like it could potentially cross the line into disrespecting its players' time.
They're yet to be seen.
Oh yeah, it's fair to say neither of us have played the game.
No, but boy, I was playing Disco Elysium, envious of it.
Oh, okay.
That might have played a factor.
Do you have any more news, Heath?
I mean, Joker is the first R-rated movie to get $1 billion, which is it's the most. It was an interesting footnote, but that's about it for news.
I hadn't heard that stat. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, isn't it weird how Joker is the most profitable comic book movie, and yet we live in a world where Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing? Isn't that crazy?
Just so I can process that. Repeat what you just said.
Okay.
Joker's more profitable, but
Joker is the most profitable comic book movie ever.
Okay.
And the reason being, the budget was something like 60 million, and then it made 1 billion. As opposed to Endgame, which am I going to get blown up by this? Which grossed like $1.5 billion, or no, it's close to 3 billion. But its budget. Oh wait, no. Okay, wait. Why did I think it was more profitable than? Okay, so because Endgame made billions on billions. I think maybe per capita that stat still works. As far as like. Yeah, it's profitability as a percentage of its initial investment. Let's go with that, okay? Because the Joker's budget, let's say, was like 60 million, and then it makes $1 billion. Endgame's budget is like 400 million, and it makes 2.7 billion. You'd have to do the math, but I'm pretty sure Joker takes it there. As far as like percent of increase of dollars.
Yeah, that stat doesn't roll off the tongue as easily.
Yeah. I might have been the sucker of a certain headline, but interesting. I mean, I didn't see Joker. You didn't see Joker.
No.
But a feather in the cap of DC, who's been Marvel's bitch since we graduated middle school.
Yeah. Is it worth having a footnote that Google Stadia came out today?
Did it? Oh, okay. Wow. Ooh.
The fact that you weren't aware of that speaks volumes.
Well, I was never in its market. Oh, wait, no, I am, though, because my internet speeds at my apartment are amazing. But don't I have to pay for the game initially? And don't I never really own anything if the service were to disappear?
Those are some big potential cons for signing up. And yeah, it's not exactly unheard of for Google to cancel some of its services, like Google Hangouts, goodbye. Google Plus, see you later. They're not afraid to cancel big initiatives they launch.
Oh, no, I can't afford to not be afraid. So we will continue to suck on the teat that is Epic Games Store, and hopefully sell enough lemonade at the cul-de-sac to buy Death Stranding.
Also, Did you see like 25% of Stadia's launch lineup of games is made up of Tomb Raider games?
Yeah, yeah. Wait. I saw a tweet that was like Stadia inflated the appearance of its games library by doing that thing. You know how in thumbnails it'll be like it was rows of box art and they'll put it on a diagonal to make it look limitless. But it's really just a 3x4 grid of these games that was made to look like an extensive library just by tweaking it on an angle.
Sure, yeah.
I should show you. It's damning when you see it. But ooh, Stadia. Is that going to be around in 2 years?
It's a good question. If I was a betting man, I would say yes, it will be.
But not prolific.
Yeah, it is so hard to predict this kind of thing in the video game industry, which is constantly changing.
But I'm great at predictions. I have an amazing track record. Oh, also, we should do a footnote. Freaking Keanu Reeves. I saw Toy Story 4, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Did you see that one?
Nah.
Well, Keanu Reeves is in that. And then Keanu Reeves is also cast in the new SpongeBob movie coming in May. So my Who's the Alpha predictions are still coming in strong. He's got stuff rolling into 2020 aside from Cyberpunk. I got nothing to worry about.
All right, sure.
My horse Keanu is winning this race.
We will keep our listeners posted on the results of that race. Shall we get to the meat of the episode, Heath?
All right. Thank you for listening so far, folks. We are about to begin our rapid fire game awards predictions. Let's try to limit each category to like an average of 2 minutes.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, fine. We'll be yeah. We'll see you after the break.
And we're back.
Okay, game of the year is not Control. That's obscene. What are they thinking?
All right, so we're going to be predicting what we think.
Wait, we should do game of the year last.
Yeah, game of the year is last. But otherwise, we'll be going in order. We've excluded a couple of the esport categories since both of us would be just blindly guessing at that point. We have no idea.
Not true. I knew who my guess for best player would go to Shroud just because he's like still moving and shaking over at Mixer, albeit I know none of the coaches or the hosts. And all of our predictions will have to do with games and not people's names.
So, Heath, question for you. Well, actually, more of a statement.
What's up?
We've casually just predicted the Game Awards the past couple years.
I didn't do too well.
That has been the running theme so far. This year, more so than any other, I really struggled with my predictions. My confidence level is at an all-time low. And I think the reason behind that is...
Why do you say that?
At least in my estimation, 2019 felt like a year where we got a whole bunch of really solid B+ level games. I can't really point to the pillars of the year, like the big boys who are going to sweep the nominations. Last year, we had Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War, which really cleaned up. This year, I'm looking at my predictions. I don't have anything winning more than one, maybe two categories.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really spread out.
It's not going to be a landslide, but there are definite standouts.
Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about Best Action Game.
Yes.
For the best game in the action genre focused primarily on combat. The nominees are Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. What are your thoughts, Heath?
My thoughts are, wow, these are really different forms of action. You got the shooters, and then you got whatever Gears 5 really is.
It's a third-person cover-based shooter instead of like a first-person one.
Yeah. But my immediate gut reaction is to give it to Devil May Cry 5 because I just know how finely tuned the engine and how well they integrate the Devil Breakers, like you were saying. And I only just learned about, was it Dante's cane or is that V's cane?
A V's cane.
Yeah, V's. I only just learned about some of the friggin' the bicycle and the rocket launcher. It sounds like that is a wealth of action to be had in Capcom's latest character action. So Devil May Cry definitely takes it over Astral Chain, in which I've only seen you carry an ice cream cone.
Actually, we're in agreement. I think Devil May Cry 5 takes this one handily. It's just high-octane action from the very moment you start. Astral Chain, another really competent character action game made by Platinum Games, like the golden boys of character action. However, I've heard complaints that the pacing is kind of strange, where for the first whole half of a mission you're doing slow-paced investigation work, and then the back half of the mission is where all the action and fighting happens.
Yeah, God forbid you get waterlogged in a case file and then there's civilian stuff that you have to tend to. It's really, I mean, I guess that doesn't detract from the actual quality of the gameplay that you have later on, but I think it's like a full package. Devil May Cry even has the fun dancing gif.
Exactly. I think this is one of the categories I was most confident in. I don't see Gears 5 getting a nod anywhere else. So if I had to pick a second place, I would maybe put Gears 5 as my runner-up.
Okay,
but I think it is Devil May Cry that will take the action category.
Okay, you don't expect them giving it to Gears 5 as in consolation.
Right. I don't think that's happening. But if it were to win, this would be its category.
Okay.
Moving on. Best Action Adventure Game. For the Best Action Adventure Game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
The nominees are Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Chris, let's hear you say what needs to be said about you've only played Borderlands 3 among these, right?
For the briefest of time
down
slots.
at Balance
Yes.
Patch, yeah.
How do you feel the remake's chance of winning a category fares, Heath? Because this category has 2 remakes: The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, and Resident Evil 2. Old games that were remastered and re-released this year.
Wildly different.
I feel like they're at an inherent disadvantage. Could you imagine a game that came out in 1998 winning this category?
Well, it's not a game that came out in 1998, Chris. It's a modern version. They definitely got more than just a facelift. Can you? I really am struggling to look for a comparison. I remember last year, didn't Best Adventure Game go to God of War?
Action adventure game did go to God of War.
Yeah, that's the kind of game that we are looking for, because boy, does Death Stranding not fit that.
Right. It's kind of a holistic combination of combat, puzzles, and traversal. Death Stranding knocking traversal out of the park, but combat and puzzle solving may be lacking.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it to Resident Evil 2.
All right. Any justifications you have to back it up?
Well, it's just like they improved upon everything from the original, and it's the kind of survival horror gameplay that I think fits really well. That being said, I'd have to take a closer look at Link's Awakening, but I think Resident Evil 2 fits the category better than Sekiro or Borderlands.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Ooh, really?
This category, I envision, the first thing that comes to mind is going on the hero's journey, or an epic adventure. It's right in the title, adventure game. And of these games, the one that most accurately resembles that to me would be Sekiro.
You're taking the ethos of this award into account to a greater extent than I am.
Yeah. So Sekiro's strength, it has that From Software combat to back it up. That's obviously a banger. It's got a grappling hook, which I guess you could argue lends itself to some pretty cool traversal. And I don't know how, I'm guessing there isn't a lot of puzzle solving, but either way, I'm still giving it to Sekiro. I think it's going to win this category.
All right.
Moving on to Best Art Direction.
Okay, here we go.
The criteria are for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. This was our most disagreeable category last year.
Excuse you. I called it like so heavily.
You put me in my place.
Yes. So this category should not be confused with like, oh, the best looking game, because it's meant for the ones that go above and beyond the traditional graphics. So Return of the Obra Dinn won last year, and it beat friggin' whatever you recommended, like Octopath Traveler or something. Yeah. The point, Chris, is wow, look at how trippy and just totally beyond what we would have anticipated art style wise. Octopath Traveler still looks like a neat diorama JRPG. It fits the format to a greater extent than the total creative output that was Return of Obra Dinn. That's why this year it's going to go to...
Wait. Let's read the nominees.
Oh.
They are Control, Death Stranding, Grease, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening.
See, I think you would be tempted to give it to The Legend of Zelda because it's like really polished and...
The Legend of Zelda was not even in my top 3.
Ooh, okay. Well, I should let you know that this is going to Sayonara Wild Hearts. I saw that game played on the Woolly Versus channel. Boy, is that some sort of concept album bottled into like a 2-hour experience. It's got the craziest visuals, all like these highly saturated. I don't know what I think it gives me like Inside vibes, if Inside were some psychedelic Technicolor music video.
Yeah, I like it's like a concept album distilled into a video game, like you were saying.
That being said,
it's a strong contender. I'm going to say Control wins this category.
Why? I mean, like, the plants look good, but that's nothing.
Best art direction. So the main setting for Control, this building that defies all logic called the Oldest House, it has crazy concepts going on in there. Heavy emphasis on like brutalist architecture that is very cool to see. Yeah, I think the way Remedy plays with architecture and mind-bending realities in this photorealistic looking game, I think all of those play to its strength and will ultimately win it Best Art Direction.
Okay. I think that's your first loss for the night.
You're not as heated as last year. Maybe we'll find something we can more hash it out over. Okay.
Not in the audio design category.
No. Audio design, we're both going to be in total agreement here.
I gotcha. It's recognizing the best in-game audio and sound design.
Not to be confused with music.
Oh, true. Yeah, it has nothing to do with soundtrack.
Different from score.
Yeah. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Control, Death Stranding, Gears 5, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Again, I have played none of these, But last year, I gave it to Call of Duty Black Ops. What? Yeah, 4. On the sole basis that I know that they had to do a good job of their sound design in regards to the footsteps that you heard in their Battle Royale mode.
Yeah, I remember that conversation and thinking you were completely off base.
Wow. And I'm going to give this category's award for a similar reason, in that the footsteps of Mr. X that you hear in Resident Evil 2 are so daunting that it could only be due to the exemplary sound design that Capcom put into RE2 Remake.
I am in complete agreement with you.
Hey,
I think
there we
Resident
go.
Evil 2 also wins for its footsteps. For a horror game, the sense of foreboding and fear that is an atmosphere that the sound design really has to accommodate is so crucial. And I think Resident Evil 2 knocked it out of the park, and I think it's going to win Best Audio Design.
That's our first in agreement thing.
No, we agreed on action for Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry.
Every once in a while, you're going to get one right, Heath.
Wow.
What can I say?
Ooh.
Continuing on to community support. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness. The nominees are Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
This is a new award this year.
Yeah, I think it is. Definitely shares some DNA with like best ongoing game, but this is specifically like support outside of the game, or how closely the developers are listening to its players.
Right, as opposed to best ongoing game, which is for outstanding development that evolves the player experience over time. It's a very fine distinction.
Yeah, if the Sonic movie was nominated for community support, it would win.
Yeah.
Because the developers listened exactly to what the fans wanted.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to win, Heath?
I think I hear that like Final Fantasy has been doing the most in regards to this. I think as much as Fortnite and Rainbow Six are doing great jobs as far as their development, I think is in regards to community support and responsiveness, that has much more to do with certain raids in Final Fantasy that need tweaking or bugs that might be plaguing newer players. I think that team over there has been doing the bulk of the community support work among these 5 games.
I hear what you're saying. That expansion that came out for Final Fantasy XIV, Shadowbringers.
Yeah, Shadow something.
I hear it's a real incredible expansion, like the best one that's come out thus far. And for that reason, I give Final Fantasy XIV an award down the line, but not on this category. I think Fortnite takes community support.
Okay.
Just because they talk about responsiveness. I feel like one big expansion pack releasing for Final Fantasy is great, but Fortnite's getting updated all the time and completely evolving. They launched Chapter 2. Fortnite looks like a very different game now than it does at the beginning of the year, and that level of like constant evolution, I think, lends itself to this category.
But Chris, isn't Final Fantasy 14 based on a subscription model?
Yeah, I think you do subscribe. I don't know for sure.
So, albeit that Fortnite is being updated every day, there's like subscriptions on the line if the team at Final Fantasy can't get it. Like, God forbid the servers go down or some quest line is incompletable, then and that costs the hundreds of subscriptions. I think the stakes are much higher over Final Fantasy, despite its audience being dwarfed by Fortnite. Fortnite, I mean, it'll never die. So I feel like they can afford to be less transparent or less responsive. I can tell you the feature to save replays of my victory after that first one, it went away. And I haven't Granted, I haven't played it again to see if the feature came back, but I feel like in terms of consequences, which you so emphatically love, it give it to Final Fantasy as opposed to Fortnite. Fortnite's going to get an ongoing game probably.
I like your rationale quite a bit. I like that extra
and I
layer
persuaded you to my side.
Nah, I have to stick with my gut here, Fortnite.
Dang.
But I do like how you brought the subscription fee into play here. How they it's required for them to keep their fans pleased.
Yeah, otherwise those are customers out the door.
I guess you could make a similar.
They're going to go back to
Fortnite.
WoW.
In Fortnite, if you don't keep people pleased, they won't keep pumping in money because it's a free-to-play game.
Yeah, but people will keep pumping out people, and children love Fortnite.
All right, we're just spewing nonsense here. Let's continue on to best esports game.
Hold on, let me scroll past all the chaff that is these teams and stuff.
Esports Game of the Year.
It's wedged between event and host.
For the game that has delivered the best overall esports experience to players, inclusive of tournaments, community support, which is like the last category, and content updates, irrespective of genre or platform. The nominees are Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Dota 2, Fortnite, League of Legends, and Overwatch. Where does your head go, Heath?
Well, Chris, I've only played one of these games. So,
I've played 3 of them.
But just being in tune with what goes on in these esports, I'm pretty certain that League of Legends is still killing it. I know that last year Fortnite took it.
Last year, Overwatch took it.
Oh.
Overwatch has won Esports Game of the Year since it came out in 2016.
Oh, and because they had to launch Overwatch 2 because of China, they're going to be sidetracked this year, and that's why it's going to go to League.
You're giving it to League of Legends, huh?
I mean, didn't I do that last year?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
This time around.
I, too, think Overwatch is coming down off the throne just because of all that bad Blizzard publicity going around. Overwatch 2 getting announced, maybe sucking some of the fun out of the current Overwatch. Also, just from the tournament point of view, I heard a lot more about the Fortnite World Cup this year than I did about any Overwatch tournament.
Well, that's just because it was like the highest payout, and then like a 16-year-old won it, so it was all the headlines for CNN.
Yeah, I mean, the highest payout is nothing to scoff at. For that reason, I'm giving it to Fortnite this year.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Moving on to Best Family Game.
Okay, now, Chris, the description it gives, right, is for the best game appropriate for family play. So it's not necessarily the one that is most appropriate for play, but, and I'll get into specifics. The nominees are Luigi's Mansion 3, Ring Fit Adventure, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Yoshi's Crafted World. Now, if you were to tell me that the best family game is Super Smash Bros., I would disagree. It's far less accommodating than Yoshi's Crafted World, which might as well be like the plastic outlet protectors that people with babies have so that the children don't get zapped. It's that in a game. It's the most accommodating. Like, have you ever seen Yoshi's Crafted World?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's it's training wheels on your tricycle. It's so generous to the youth that I feel Smash, like, God forbid you give an infant Joker and try to convince him to use Arsene. They're not going to know what to do with all these mechanics. So, okay, so how do you define best family game?
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Heath. I think while Super Smash Bros. Ultimate might be, quote unquote, like the best game in this category, I actually gave it to Super Mario Maker 2. I think like the creativity aspect to it and the universal appeal of Mario platforming that anyone can wrap their head around on this 2D plane is super fits the description for the best game appropriate for family play.
Right. So even though Smash is the best game among these 5, the best family game with the demographic in mind, you're saying is Mario Maker.
That's right. Also, trying to meta game it, I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate can win some other categories. Well, this is the only nominee Mario Maker 2 gets, so I think it might get its chance to win right here.
I think Mario Maker 2, albeit a better game than Yoshi's Crafted World, still has a barrier for entry that is becoming of a algebra teacher. You need to learn how to appropriately build some of these levels. Granted, there's like a single player campaign, but I think approachability, Yoshi's got this covered. I'm going with the underdog. The under dinosaur.
Fair enough. I can't fault you for that.
We should mention this is like the first award for which Nintendo has just swept. Last year we had like Overcooked and Starlink. This one, it's just one company's just raking it in.
Worth noting though that Starlink was Nintendo associated. It was Ubisoft making it, but it was a Switch exclusive. No, was it a? Let me double.
It was not a Switch exclusive.
Fox integration.
Oh, okay. So they did crossover stuff.
Yeah, crossover stuff.
All right, cool. I can get behind that.
All right, moving on to best fighting game. For the best game designed primarily around head-to-head combat.
Right, so not like Devil May Cry.
Right, which is against like the computer, while these are more against...
Although they did just recently add multiplayer co-op to the Steam page for Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, I didn't talk about it during the what I've been playing section, but once in a while, other players would join my game kind of like unceremoniously.
Oh, like summons in Dark Souls?
Kind of.
That's weird.
It happened fairly infrequently, though.
Okay.
Moving on, the best fighting game nominees. We have Dead or Alive 6, Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. What do you think, Heath?
Okay. I mean, among these 4 games, they're all...
5 games.
No, we're not counting Jump Force. Are you crazy?
Yeah. You're right.
Wait, just to be clear, that's the one with JoJo characters that was really clunky.
Yeah, very rough. Animations were missing. It's a whole bunch of different anime characters.
Yeah. So among the ones that are contenders, Samurai Showdown did a pretty standout job of being what the fighting game community deems as an appealing fighting game. It had opportunities for like footsies and upsets, and if you commit yourself to a character and master their counters, you can really overthrow the meta. Or at least I think that depending on however many patches have gone down since, I feel like Samurai Showdown is a living, breathing fighting game that definitely shouldn't be disregarded. But it's up against Smash Bros. Ultimate. And that is an unwinnable fight as far as I can see.
Gotcha. So you're voting for Smash Bros.
Yeah, Smash Bros. Is like, that's the fighting game of the decade.
Some people don't even consider it a fighting game.
I mean, Martin Scorsese didn't consider Avengers Endgame cinema, but it's still the highest grossing film ever.
Gotcha. As I was reading across this list of nominees, I was panning my head. I saw Mortal Kombat 11.
Which was the most profitable game, right?
For a large portion of the year, it was the highest selling game of 2019.
Yeah.
I think it has been superseded at this point, definitely. But the thought that went through my head was, oh yeah, of course, this is the biggest fighting game of the year. It's going to take it no problem. Then I continued reading, and I saw Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I was like, oh yeah, the Game Awards include December of the previous year in their nominees because they happened at the beginning of December. So Smash Bros. Didn't have a chance to win any awards last year. And that threw me for a loop for a second, but then I ultimately landed on the same decision you made. I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate wins this category handily.
Yeah. I sympathize with those who feel like their truer fighting games are getting snubbed just because you went up against Fortnite. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm calling Smash Bros. The Fortnite of fighting games.
Better than the Dark Souls of fighting games.
Isn't Dark Souls the Dark Souls of fighting games? Because they added PvP arenas, right?
Right. Moving on to the next category. Fresh indie game.
Yo, okay, let me take this, all right? Fresh indie game. Why?
I thought it was funny. Last year, this category was called Best Debut Indie Game, but this year it's presented by Subway, so they changed the name to Fresh.
Yeah, but most foot-long debut, yeah.
What's the criteria, Heath?
Well, we're just recognizing a new independent studio that released its first game in 2019, which it just adds to the mystique. Can you believe there are some killers in this category, and it's their first game ever, and your first song is Despacito, and you just rake it in.
Okay, so it's worth mentioning that the studios themselves are the nominees for certain games. So the games that are up for nominee are Disco Elysium, Grease, My Friend Pedro, Outer Wilds, Slay the Spire, and Untitled Goose Game.
This is a more difficult category than Game of the Year.
This category was agonizing for me.
Yeah. After this goes live, you just go to bed.
Yeah. Where my head went, first of all, of these games, the only one I've played is Slay the Spire, which I have immense fondness for. I really like it. Shockingly and tragically, this is the only category that Slay the Spire was nominated in. Not even Best Strategy Game, which I kind of thought I might nominate it for to win. Going into this, I thought that was going to be my pick for the winner.
Right.
No, it's not. It doesn't even get a nomination there. Tragic. That said, I don't give it the win here either. It's between Disco Elysium and Outer Wilds for me. For reasons that I will explain later, I ultimately give it to Outer Wilds. I think it is going to win Best Fresh Indie Game. And also, the developer of Outer Wilds, I didn't know this, they're called Mobius Digital.
Oh, yeah.
Nice synergy with our podcast name.
Yeah. We are a pillar of quality by association.
Exactly.
It's interesting that you would have put Outer Wilds up against Disco Elysium for the award. I would have put Untitled Goose Game above Disco Elysium.
Ooh.
Just because it's not more impressive than Disco Elysium, but it's more celebratory, I feel. I want to give an award to Untitled Goose Game. I want to teach a course on Disco Elysium. But ultimately, Outer Wilds wins this by such a huge margin. For that to be their first game, as flawless as it is, you could not have wished for a better golden goose than this game.
Golden goose, you say?
Triggered House, which is also a really fun game studio. They made Untitled Goose Game. Anyway, Outer Wilds. Boy, when you imagine just swinging a pickaxe at a mound of dirt and you immediately hit a diamond. It's the most celebrated. I was talking about how friggin' games worth celebrating. Outer Wilds deserves both a lecture and citywide parade. It's such a flagship game that that you really need. If this award goes to anything other, because my friend Pedro, it's a fun 2D shooting action game.
I think it's the least likely to win here.
Yeah. As much as Best Art was born to award Return to the Obra Dinn, this award is born to give to Mobius Digital. You just home run your first game so hard, it should send shockwaves that'll last for years.
Do you appreciate the irony of the statement you made, calling the Outer Wilds flawless when you couldn't bring yourself to see it through?
Oh, we talked about how
you cheated yourself.
Yeah, the reason I didn't see it through was because of the crippling horrors of space. I still am going to push this actively. The fact that I didn't finish it impacts my decision-making 0%.
The only reason I have not played the Outer Wilds yet is because it is not on Steam yet, only on the Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
All right, so we're in agreement on that one. Moving on to Best Game Direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. The 5 nominees are Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, and Outer Wilds. What are you thinking about this category, Heath?
Well, it's not going to Outer Wilds, despite my fervent praise for the previous category.
Really?
Yeah, as Best Direction is clearly going to go to Death Stranding, given the circumstances.
I agree. Yeah, Death Stranding is the winner here.
Jeff is going to give the award to Kojima because just how mind-blowing that game is from a direction standpoint. It's really cinematic, and you just feel the one person, the one 5'9", 140-pound person that is Hideo Kojima, just with every bite in that game is catering to his unique vision. I don't know about Control and Resident Evil 2, despite it being a really polished version, lacks that kind of magnificent personality that only a Kojima game. It would be a shocking turn of events if Kojima didn't win. That being said, Kojima Productions is also looking to produce movies. Those movies are going to bomb. So take my praise with a very contextual grain of salt.
I agree with you.
I said a lot for you to agree with me. What are you agreeing with?
I agree with Death Stranding winning this category.
Uh-huh.
For all the qualms people could raise about Death Stranding's execution in some areas, I think we can't attack the idea. The idea is super creative, super innovative, which counts a lot for this category. I don't want to be too reductive here, but for the other games nominated, we can look at them, look at Control, say, yeah, this is a linear third-person shooter. We can look at Resident Evil and say, oh yeah, it's a great entry in survival horror. We can look at Sekiro and say, yep, it's another From Software formula game.
Yep.
Death Stranding, it's a new idea given that AAA budget, and this is getting ahead of ourselves. I don't see it winning anything else, so I think this is its one and only chance to get the respect it deserves in Best Game Direction.
Yeah. Okay.
And on that note, Games for Impact.
I'm going to abstain from this category, but the description is for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. The nominees are Concrete Genie, Grease, Kind Words, Life is Strange 2, and Sea of Solitude. I have very cursory knowledge of all of these.
Sure, yeah. I used process of elimination on this one. Concrete Genie, it's a PlayStation exclusive, just came out. Pretty lukewarm reception, I suppose. I think it has to deal with themes of bullying and its repercussions, which would be the impact part.
Wasn't that the same? Because Celeste won this last year. Wasn't Celeste about, no, it's about depression.
Yeah, and self-improvement and things like that.
Yeah. Also, wait, Life is Strange is back again?
There is a sequel, yeah, Life is Strange 2.
That's what was nominated last year.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, so...
Explain that.
It's an episodic game.
Okay.
So it's much like Telltale used to operate.
Yeah.
It's released in 5 parts. I think most of the parts released this year. I think last year only episode 1 had come out.
Okay.
I haven't heard nearly the buzz around Life is Strange 2 as I heard the first one, so I'm going to eliminate that from my list of candidates as well. Sea of Solitude, an EA original game, kind of like Faye or Yarny, joining those games. Also, kind of a lukewarm response on that one, too. And last but not least, Kind Words, never even heard of it, which leaves us with Grease. I think Grease is the winner here.
All right.
Which is a very artful game. I hear it doesn't use any dialogue, but still manages to tell a pretty profound tale. That's on my radar of games I want to try.
When you say dialogue, you mean like no text whatsoever?
No text. All visual storytelling.
Oh. So a real Shadow of the Colossus.
Even that has spoken dialogue, although it's in like a different language with subtitles.
Oh, okay.
All right, moving on to kind of a repeat of a previous category. We have Best Independent Game. For outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher's system. Our nominees are Baba Is You, Disco Elysium, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game.
Have you heard of Baba Is You?
Yeah, I've heard quite a bit about it.
Okay, I've been trying to stay on Blackout because I may try to play that with Bailey, but I'm not sure if she would take to it well, so I'm kind of just in a holding pattern on Baba Is You.
Gotcha.
Can you fill me in?
Sure. It's a puzzle game, level-based. There's like dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of puzzles to solve. Picture a 2D game where you're just like moving objects around in this 8-bit art style. The gimmick is somewhere on the screen, there's like a couple sentences which spell out the rules of the level you're in.
Such as the title.
Such as the title, Baba Is You. The catch is the sentences themselves are the rules that are enforced in the level, and you can move them around just like any other object in the game, which means you can reorganize the sentences to create new rules.
You can make like Baba is door.
Something like that. So for the most rudimentary example I can think of is something about walls being solid, you move solid away, and now all of a sudden you can walk through walls.
Ah.
And apparently it gets very complicated with the
That's
rule
what I heard.
manipulation.
Yeah.
Fantastic idea. I don't think it wins this category.
Well, that leaves 4. And Katana Zero, I know very little.
Yeah, just a very fast-paced action game. I almost think of it as kind of like a side-scrolling Hotline Miami.
Yeah, which does not stand out among the 3 remaining.
Correct. For the same reasons illustrated above, I just give it to Outer Wilds again.
Well, hold on. If we revisit the description of the category, it's for outstanding creative and technical achievement. So Untitled Goose Game may be really creative, and Disco Elysium may be really dense in its execution. But as far as like technical achievement, friggin' I'm flying through white holes, which are bending light in front of me and toying with time. Oh my God, is Outer Wilds born for this category? Yeah, Outer Wilds won the earlier indie category, but that's just because it was the new studio's first game. And it just speaks to how Outer Wilds is going to sweep both of these categories, because why wouldn't it if it's delivering on all cylinders as I've described?
Your gushing for this game is making me want to play it so much.
Just give in to the Epic Games Store. No,
Tim
okay,
Sweeney will never see a penny from me.
I'm really dying that Detroit Become Human has yet to be released on PC. There was a teaser for it back in September, and I'm pretty sure they've hit like an unforeseen roadblock, and that's not coming out until like January. God forbid I play Brain Age on my Switch before Detroit on my PC.
I hadn't heard about that.
But that's just a side note. Outer Wilds takes this one as well. They're 2 for 2.
Moving on to Best Mobile Game for the best game playable on a dedicated mobile device.
What a weird cohort.
Yeah, it is. All right, here we go. Nominees are Call of Duty Mobile, Grindstone, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sky Children of Light, and What the Golf.
So do we have to take into account how these play on mobile, or can we just pick like the best game among them?
My reading of it would be, yes, you have to take the medium into account. How does this play on mobile?
I give it to What the Golf.
Okay.
Have you seen What the Golf?
I have heard much praise for it and how densely packed and creative its ideas are.
The main example that I'll give is it's a traditional golf game until you get to the hole where on every stroke the pin moves. So you have to like plan it out.
Oh.
And then you've seen the donkey video on it?
No, I haven't. I've been trying to know as little as possible about this game.
Okay. Then I'll leave it there.
It's coming to Steam next year, I think.
Even though I gave Sayonara Wild Hearts best art direction, and Call of Duty Mobile is probably the most we could hope for a first-person shooter on a mobile device, What the Golf is probably the game you're going to want your kids to play.
Okay.
And grandparents. They play on mobile devices.
That one is my runner-up, actually.
To what?
Looking this over, yeah, we have Sky Children of Light from that game company. A lot of prestige behind that one. The makers of Journey and Flower.
Oh.
But I heard this was not their best outing. Maybe I'm misremembering. I think they kind of had some strange microtransactions in it. That could be totally wrong. But anyway, lukewarm reception there. I don't think Call of Duty is exactly at home on a mobile device.
Me neither.
Which leaves Grindstone, Sayonara Wild Hearts, and What the Golf, 3 really well-regarded Apple Arcade games. This is going purely off of podcasts I've listened to and what the hosts gravitated towards most. I think I've heard the most praise about Grindstone.
Really? I've heard absolutely nothing, not even the title.
It's like a puzzle game, I think. I've heard nothing but good things about that. That's where my vote's going to go. All right, best multiplayer game. For outstanding online multiplayer gameplay and design, including co-op and massively multiplayer experiences, irrespective of game genre or platform. Our contenders are Apex Legends, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, and Tom Clancy's The Division 2.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Heath.
Friggin' Borderlands 3? Does that mean like multiplayer amongst your party?
Right. So in the criteria of the category, it mentions co-op. Borderlands 3, very co-op centric game and franchise.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Up to 4 players.
Yeah,
you
but
can join each other's world.
That's not why you don't give that the multiplayer game.
I agree. This category is calling about outstanding online multiplayer. Borderlands 3 is essentially the same multiplayer we had in Borderlands 2, which came out in 2012. It's the same concept. So I don't think it's differentiating itself enough to win this category. Not even close. I think Apex Legends wins this one.
I'm inclined to agree.
Just because, what does it bring new to the table? First of all...
Zip lines.
Sure, zip lines. That wasn't what I was thinking of.
It
had that stealth drop launch, which is pretty cool. It's not going to win at the category or anything, but that does set itself apart. Secondly, it combined the battle royale craze with the hero shooter concept, so that's a novel take on some established franchises. And also the ping system. The ping system is huge.
Yo, I love the ping system. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, how you can seamlessly communicate with your teammates without needing to use voice chat, just by highlighting any object in the environment, and it will contextually communicate to your teammate exactly what you're pointing at, what you want them to know.
Yeah, we're not talking about the really bare bones communication that was in Portal 2's co-op. We're talking about hey, check it out. That door's open. That means this place has been looted. Let's be on red alert. Yo, I got a Mozambique with an iron sight in the bathroom. It's so in-depth, I've heard.
Yeah, it custom tailors itself to whatever you're pointing at. You point at an enemy, your teammates will know that there's a threat there. You point at ammo, they know.
And that way we don't have to talk to anyone.
Perfect. The best multiplayer experience 2019 had to offer.
Although, should I explain why Tetris 99 didn't get my nomination?
Yeah. Why do you think?
So, okay, for outstanding online multiplayer, Tetris 99, its conceit is that you're competing against other people, and the better Tetris player wins. The problem is, when you look at it on its surface, it's really just games of Tetris in which, depending on who you get matched up with, if you get matched up with a killer, they're just going to be sending you garbage. And it's just a very difficult game of Tetris. It's so unpredictable depending on who your opponent is that I can't really recommend it. I feel like Apex Legends, the skill ceiling is lower. Wait, how do I explain this? Or the skill floor is much higher in Tetris 99. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Best narrative game. For outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game, nominees are A Plague Tale: Innocence, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, and The Outer Worlds. This was a shot in the dark category for me. I don't know anything about any of these games' narratives.
Well, I know that Outer Worlds actually, okay, here's where I'm going to come in. So Outer Worlds made New Vegas, but what else did they make?
Pillars of Eternity, I think Tyranny.
So I know that Obsidian as a game studio suffered from cripplingly low budgets and had to wallow in bare knuckle game design. And so they came out of it with an experience of hating corporations. And so that they channeled that into the Outer Worlds story, in which that the society is basically run by the corporations, and suicide is considered as vandalism because the worker is property of the company, and how dare such as such be so irresponsible as to end his life. Now I'm going to have to pick up his quota. So just an astonishing execution into, because something else about Obsidian in which their games were very bleak, and so they went to the bleakest place they could think of, which is the modern working environment.
So that gets your vote then?
Well, storytelling and narrative. I kind of wanted to give it to Death Stranding again, Because even though Disco Elysium, you can go about that any way you want. It doesn't really affect the story, which is what I thought the category meant. I think Outer Worlds gets this. Yeah.
All right, that's a very good choice. I could not figure out any other way to give Disco Elysium an award, so it earns my prediction for Best Narrative. Like I said earlier, I've been intentionally trying to find out as little as possible about each of these games' narratives, so yeah, I have very little to go on.
That's fair.
Moving on to Best Ongoing Game. Awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. We have Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Chris, I've only played one of these games.
Yeah.
And I think I would be betraying my own curiosities if I didn't give it to Fortnite. Again, even though Fortnite won last year, just because the debut of Fortnite Chapter 2 is kind of what got me into the game. And I gotta say, I've had a lot of fun. I appreciate the changes that they made. It's been welcoming to me as a newcomer. And although I've heard great things about Rainbow Six and Final Fantasy, and to some extent, Destiny 2. Epic is going to get this again, second year in a row. They deserve it, in my opinion.
This is interesting because we flip-flopped on Best Ongoing Game and Best Community Support.
Interesting.
Depending on our interpretations of the category. Because I'm giving this one to Final Fantasy XIV. That Shadowbringer expansion, it's like one of the best reviewed pieces of video game content to come out in the past year. It got crazy good reviews, this expansion did. And for that reason, I'm giving it to Final Fantasy XIV for just evolving the player experience this year more so than most years.
Very fair. I can see where you're coming from.
All right, another category I'm taking a shot in the dark at. This is Best Performance. Awarded to an individual for voice-over acting, motion, and or performance capture. We've got a big list of people here. We have Ashley Birch as Parvati Holcomb in The Outer Worlds. We have Courtney Hope as Jess Faden in Control. Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz in Gears 5. Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff in Death Stranding. Matthew Porretta as Dr. Casper Darling in Control. And finally, Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding.
His name is Bridges.
Yeah, pretty on the nose there.
And he's a porter. Well,
yeah.
Okay. I've heard great things about Parvati in Outer Worlds. Okay. I haven't heard a single thing about Control or Gears 5. I give it to Mads Mikkelsen because even though Norman Reedus does a good job in Death Stranding, his performance workload is just a lot of grunting when he bends over to pick up a suitcase full of metal. Mads Mikkelsen is the only one that's truly acting. So that's where that's coming from.
Okay. I've heard actually a lot of good things about Matthew Porretta being Dr. Darling in Control. Some like really funny scenes with him. But that said, I'm giving this one to the other Death Stranding actor. I'm giving it to Norman Reedus.
What are you talking about? Why?
So he's the poster boy of the game.
Yeah.
His face is all over the promotional material. Like you said, he doesn't have a super verbal role. This is mostly because I don't know anything about Cliff in Death Stranding. I know not a thing.
Oh, he's like the center of the mystery involving the babies.
Okay. So he's probably great. He's probably going to win this category. But I've heard a lot of good things about Norman Reedus' physical performance in Death Stranding, that he really sells the cross-country hiking aspects.
Yeah.
Like, you really feel like this guy's taking a walk, and you feel every step.
Maybe I didn't give him that enough credit.
because the motion capture is part of the performance.
I know,
in addition to the voice acting.
I know, but like, I guess.
So yeah, like I said, not super confident about this category, but I give it to my boy Sam Porter Bridges over there. Okay, best role-playing game. For the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. Our 5 nominees are Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and The Outer Worlds.
God, can you believe Kingdom Hearts is on this list?
Scrub it from the screen. I don't want to see it.
Hey, I gave this to Disco Elysium.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Because when you read the description, you really feel that it fits it so appropriately, despite my problems with it.
Sure, yeah. It sounds like you have the utmost control over how you build your detective/cop.
That being said, it will go to Outer Worlds on the night.
Oh, so your prediction is Outer Worlds, not Disco Elysium?
Well, yeah, I'm doing my picks like personally, but yeah, Outer Worlds will take it.
Oh, gotcha. I've been doing this whole thing guessing what I think is going to win.
Oh, well, I mean, I would only, if I were to do that, I would only change like 1 or 2. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay. You go with your opinion because you feel like it's representative of quality.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement here. I think The Outer Worlds takes it as the more conventional RPG, perhaps.
Well, because don't they do a great job of taking like the non-combat skills and making them kind of like charm, for instance? That's primarily only for like when you sell things, but don't they also make it improve your critical hit chance and then
Intimidate can like make enemies cower in fear during a firefight.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. And then like animals can experience terror if you're, one of those like intimidate or something like that. So that's that's kind of where it earns its merit.
Right. Yeah. Also playing into my decision, I wasn't able to figure out anywhere else I could give The Outer Worlds an award, so I had to give it best role-playing game.
Really? Is this the first one? I didn't even realize that.
It was in contention between that and Disco Elysium, like you already mentioned.
Yeah.
All right, here's a fun one. Score and music. For outstanding music, inclusive of score, original song, and or licensed soundtrack. Some heavy hitters here. We have Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Now, some of you may be thinking that Heath would put Sayonara Wild Hearts for best score/music because
that's what I was thinking.
That's what it's supposed to fit. Like, it's the award that it was meant to win. I'm not going to give it that because I feel Cadence of Hyrule is more deserving of it.
I was between those two as well, despite my adoration for Devil Trigger. Sorry, Devil May Cry 5. I ended up on the other side of the fence, though. Sayonara Wild Hearts is my bet.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
I interpreted it as more of a musical game than the visual component you awarded it. So ultimately, I gave it score and music. It's also like my type of music, so that might be influencing my decision more so than Cadence of Hyrule is. Also, absolutely criminal. Fire Emblem Three Houses was not nominated for score and music. It didn't deserve to win, but it sure as hell deserved a nomination more than Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh my gosh.
Definitely robbery on the part of the Fire Emblem team. So yeah, Sayonara Wild Hearts, if it doesn't win best art direction, it'll probably win best music. We will await that. Here, you want me to introduce CTR? All right.
Sure.
Best racing/sports game for best traditional and non-traditional sports. Oh, that probably non-traditional is probably just for Rocket League. We have Crash Team Racing, Dirt Rally 2. What? I've never heard of this game. PES, which is the soccer game. F1 2019, that's F1 racing. And then FIFA 20. I mean, I own, like, it's with a bile-filled heart that I give it to Crash Team Racing.
It is with a great glee of pleasure that I give it to Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled.
I'm looking at my screen and I can clearly see that this was Mario Kart's off year.
All right, fair. Yep. All right, moving on.
Well, you don't want to say more about Crash Team Racing?
I have nothing to say. Yeah, I haven't played this game, but I hear. All right, here's one scummy thing that happened.
Sure.
Did you hear how this game launched microtransaction free, and then months down the line, it was injected with them?
Injected how? Like progression limiting, or
I
are things
know.
that were previously free suddenly behind a paywall?
I think it's mostly cosmetics, but yeah, a game that kind of was able to avoid any review criticisms during its review period.
Oh, that is scummy.
By not having any microtransactions, managed to get around it by introducing them after the game was out for a couple months. So yeah, reviews don't reflect that state of the game.
Interesting. I never would have known.
I don't actually have that big of a problem with it, assuming I'm correct in thinking it's just cosmetic stuff. Part of me thinks it was nefariously done. Part of me also thinks they just hadn't made that stuff yet to sell.
Right.
So potentially scummy, but also just like a good business. I mean, no one's forcing you to buy cool skins for Crash in a racing game. It's only there if you want it to be. All right. Best strategy game. Best game focused on real-time or turn-based strategy gameplay, irrespective of platform. We've got a bunch of them. Here we have Age of Wonders Planetfall.
Whatever that is. Oh, wait, that's Paradox.
Oh, yeah, it is. Anno 1800. Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh, boy.
Total War Three Kingdoms. Tropico 6. And, oh, look, a nod to Wargroove. That's heartwarming to see.
Hi, Chucklefish.
All right. What do you think, Heath?
In regards to Three Houses, the strategy aspect is exclusively has to do with the combat. So it feels like it would be a snub to all the other games if Three Houses won, because it would be like it only won, like only a third of the game really won it.
I see what you're saying. And I had a whole spiel prepared for me comparing and contrasting Fire Emblem Three Houses with Slay the Spire, my two frontrunners for Best Strategy Game of the Year.
Dang.
It is crazy to me that Tropico 6 made it on, and Slay the Spire did not. Slay the Spire is straight fire. Quote it, put it on the box.
Oh my God. If you disagree with me, you are a liar.
Yeah, so Slay the Spire, I was going to ultimately come down and say, I think the strategic components of Slay the Spire are more compelling than Fire Emblem Three Houses. That said, I think Fire Emblem Three Houses wins this category. I think people are going to be voting for it, like the judges, irregardless of how deep its strategy is. Also, I hear it did add more difficulty levels after I had played it that do make it harder. Probably more compelling as a strategy game. It's also just a fantastic game that happens to be a strategy game. So I think on that alone, it'll win the category.
Okay, yeah.
It received too positive a reception for it not to win anything.
And as much as we would love for Wargroove to get some recognition, I feel like the nomination is sufficient.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait,
Last but not
what was your
least-
pick?
Oh, I was going to give it to Tropico 6.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, just because it's like a more, it's like Democracy 3. It's like City Skylines. It's that 4X kind of role playing. I kind of want to, I mean, if I wasn't going to get a Paradox game, I was considering getting Tropico 6. Yeah, I watched it with enthusiasm. So, I mean, clearly none of these strategy games are blowing me away, but that was the one that I was most interested in.
Fire Emblem Three Houses blew me away.
Okay.
So it gets my vote.
That's fair.
Okay, last category before we get to Game of the Year. Best VR/AR game. For the best game experience playable in virtual or augmented reality, irrespective of platform. We have Asgard's Wrath, Blood and Truth, Beat Saber, No Man's Sky, and Trover Saves the Universe.
Beat Saber was on last year's list, was it not?
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. I saw that. I was like, Beat Saber didn't come out this year. In fact, wasn't that on the nomination list of last year? And it totally was. It was nominated last year. I don't know why it's here.
Yeah, it seems like it's more along of the ongoing game.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what I'm missing exactly here. But either way, at my first glance across these games, first of all, No Man's Sky, nice to see it coming back from the grave like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Beat Saber is the game that most interests me, but I mean, it was nominated last year, didn't win. I guess that means I don't think it's winning this year either. I ultimately decided that I think Asgard's Wrath is the winner here.
Interesting.
It didn't have a lot of time in the spotlight, but it reviewed incredibly well, and it's like basically people were touting it as a fully fledged, like, lengthy RPG that benefits from being made in VR.
How long is it?
I think like dozens of hours.
Okay,
which you don't typically associate with VR games.
You have a pretty sweaty headset after that.
Yeah, especially because I think you're doing a fair amount of movement and slashing and ranged combat. And like a pretty robust, like Skyrim-esque leveling up skill perk trees. Yeah. So for its scope and ambition for a VR game, I give it to Asgard's Wrath.
I gave it to Trover Saves the Universe because of the merits of... You ever hear of that accounting game by the Rick and Morty folks?
Did hear about that.
That one was worth a look. It was very funny. So I'm just going to ride on that's coattails for my nomination.
All right. I respect it. Which brings us to the final category of the evening. Game of the Year. The one where all eyes will be on the GOTY. And this is recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. The 6 nominees are Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and The Outer Worlds.
How do we start this? Do we try to eliminate them or what?
We clap our hands at Control being able to punch above its weight and compete with the big boys here. Was not expecting to see it nominated for Game of the Year. But ultimately, I don't think it can quite compete on the same level as some of these other games. Actually, as a matter of fact, this lineup of nominees for Game of the Year did not at all resemble my expectations. Were
you expecting Three Houses here too?
I was expecting Resident Evil 2, Sekiro, and The Outer Worlds. But these other 3, I was kind of expecting Fire Emblem Three Houses, Outer Wilds, and some mystery 6th option.
Okay, I get you.
I completely forgot that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate could be competing for Game of the Year. How much shade would that throw at 2019 if a 2018 won 2019 Game of the Year?
Well, dude, it's are you going to deny it?
I can't rationalize that in my head. And ultimately for Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, fitting.
It's kind of, I don't see fighting games as the traditional contenders for GOTY.
Well, Smash is not a traditional fighting game.
Yeah, that is fair. But as you can see, I don't think it's going to take it.
I disagree.
Oh, so I've identified your pick for Game of the Year.
That's right.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
I feel like you can't deny the tremendous congregation, with few exceptions. I mean, it will easily be a contender in the Video Game Hall of Fame. Outer Worlds, I feel, is too new to give it Game of the Year just yet, despite its critical acclaim. Resident Evil 2 is really polished, but I also feel like it's undeserving of Game of the Year, which leaves Death Stranding and Sekiro. And I wouldn't be mad if those two got it, but I feel like Smash is the most deserving.
I feel like Smash Bros. Ultimate is the quintessential iteration over Smash Bros. 4. But at the end of the day, it's just that the polished new version of something we've seen so many times. And yeah, like iteration. Like how many... They didn't reinvent the wheel. They polished Smash 4 a bit, threw in some new characters, and called it a day.
Well, Chris, I'm seriously, if they put Subspace Emissary 2 in Smash Bros. Ultimate, I would have no hesitation, even though that would be just as iterative.
Yeah, sorry, Heath. We're not going to reach agreement here.
Wow.
What I will agree with you is Outer Worlds, a little recent. That actually isn't my reason for not voting for it. It's just kind of Obsidian realized there has been a dearth of Fallout content people actually want to play, and then they capitalized on it and made a Fallout game people wanted. But that doesn't scream Game of the Year to me.
No, it just screams like super
Quality.
hot fire. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say just quality RPG.
I would say street cred.
Yeah, street cred, sure. Looking over at Death Stranding, I think it's too divisive to win. It has its people who are going to scream from the rooftops and want it to win, but they aren't going to sway everyone to their side. There are too many people that viscerally dislike long walks.
It's too
in a video
weird.
game.
Yeah, it's immensely fun to play by the looks of it, but it's too weird.
Immense props to Hideo Kojima for taking one of the most hated activities in a video game, a fetched quest, and creating an entire mechanical gameplay system around it. The only game you could make that is more hated would be as if he did an escort mission game.
Dude, I was about to say, no, you can carry people on your back in that game, so it becomes an escort mission. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Never mind. Game of the Year. All right. Resident Evil 2, this is me being shallow again. I realize it's totally different from the 1998 version. It's just, to hear the word Resident Evil 2 wins 2019 Game of the Year is strange to me.
But it was so good looking.
It is. You know what else is really good looking? My choice, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I think that wins Game of the Year.
Really?
Yeah. If I had to pick a runner-up, I think actually, yeah, despite what I just said, I think Resident Evil 2 does stand a decent chance of winning. People really were happy with that, how that turned out. But ultimately, I choose Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It sounds like From Software on their A game. Ultimately, like I said earlier, a whole bunch of really, really solid B+ level games here. Sekiro does not scream Game of the Year to me either.
I was going to say even that I would find it as an upset.
Oh, okay. Like
underdog. As far as like amongst the B+s, I feel it's like a B. No, underdog is Control.
Yeah. But
this is like the dog breed that was fashionable last season.
I arrived at Sekiro through process of elimination rather than having the utmost confidence in it.
It shows, yeah.
Yeah. So, one last meta category here, Heath.
Okay, and then I have to get off after whatever you're about to say.
Okay. How soon?
Pretty soon, yeah.
All right, it'll be quick. Last year we talked about the Game Awards viewership, and you said...
Game Awards 2019 only in the 30s.
I think so.
Not the 40s.
Yeah. I was wondering if you still stand by that. I wanted us to predict how many people we think are going to tune in to watch the Game Awards. I want to walk back what I said. I'm bullish on it. I think we're going to hit more than 40 million people watching this year. For reference, Heath, last year was 26.2 million people tuned in. So I'm predicting a 14 million people increase in spectators.
That is absolutely asinine. I will say no less than...
Predict as close as you can, and whoever's closer will win the category.
Yeah,
Mine is 40 million.
That's crazy, Chris. You're going to hit 32.
Okay. So a tie would be if exactly 36 million people watch it.
Yeah, and even
any
that's
more than
high.
that, I win. Any less than that, you win.
Deal.
All right, we did it. We predicted the Game Awards.
To much success, in my opinion. I feel like I got that. I will definitely score much higher correct predictions than last year.
Well, I think so. I think we had a lot more similar answers, so of course
Wow.
we're going to do better. And should the viewership be a category that counts towards the result?
Yeah.
Okay, so
our fun bonus category, yeah.
That'll be a point in the competition. All right, so that'll be really exciting to see who the victor is.
Let us know whose hot takes are hotter at the email.
MobiusTubesPodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. And watch Fleabag.
Yeah, I hear from Heath that it's good. And we'll catch you. Wow, this is the longest episode by far.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll catch you on episode 29. See you then.